All right. Well, a shift in the game plan will happen because it's us. So we are the humans,
Really?
And the plants.
and the plants for sure. There are living creatures. You have a thing with green going on as well. I see.
Yeah. Mhm.
Best color ever. Best color ever. My
I see
5-year-old self.
Robert.
Yeah, my 5-year-old self definitely was aware that green was the best color ever. Um, the advice I would give my 5-year-old self would be, generally speaking, hang in there. It gets better. Like, I mean, I'm a weird person, so I was weird at 5, like straight out of the gate. And a lot of what I have come to refer to as so what, like the micro and macro traumas of being a human, definitely definitely were there. So there would be a lot of like, hang in there, bro. You know,
Mhm.
being a little punk with curly hair that got in fights all the time because he didn't like people calling him Curly Sue and stuff like that. It's like, hey,
Oh.
at some point that'll be your thing, right? That'll be the brand. Like, people will know you for that in a way that doesn't make you want to hit them. Yeah, so that would be my shtick. What about you guys?
So we have quite general. Mine was, you know what, the grown ups are just doing whatever they think was good. That they have no idea either.
Right. Totally. Oh, I now it's funny. Now I come to like, I go, oh shit, she knows.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, indeed. Yeah, so my thing was a bit more personal. We need was more maybe show courage uh, during to get some stuff done or to make changes. But,
Word. It's funny when you describe that. I like remember, I I grew up out in the woods. I would go to take the compost out every night, and I just like, when you say show courage, that is like the moment when like courage was most required. Going out in the in
Yeah.
the
mm,
in the woods in the dark to go toss this food onto a pile of God only knows what. Like, awesome
yeah,
courage. Um, well, since we're here with the three of us, maybe it's an idea to switch up the game and make use of, as soon as I say that, make use of
somebody else comes
Troika.
in.
Catherine jumps into the mix, so let's welcome Catherine into the space. Attack her with our invitation. Let's see if we can switch back to wise crowds. We might have enough time if we are on our P's and Q's. What's up, Catherine?
Hi, Catherine.
We were just going through a round robin of what advice would we offer our 5-year-old self. Does anything come up for you? And do you need some time to settle in before I just like attack you with like an incredibly challenging and personal question? I'm sweating even asking that question.
What advice would you offer your 5-year-old self? In which context?
Yeah, this one. Ironically, yeah, maybe it's a bit much. Appropriate in breakouts, maybe less appropriate in this context. Dropping out. So my advice for my 5-year-old self was hang in there. And Sarah, let's see, yours was, well, let me not step on your vibe.
Yeah, the grown ups are just doing what they can. I put that in the chat as well.
And Robert's on mute.
Yeah, sorry, that was me. My advice was show courage. Yeah.
Well, give it some gestation. So I have a design brief for us today that I would love your advice on. Curiously, I haven't articulated it in the form that I made. Experiment, trust, move on, stay true. It's so funny, like this question above and beyond all others makes me want to go, why, right? My design brief is there's an event coming up. There's actually a couple different events coming up, and I want to see if I can if it's possible to smash them together and make event babies. Right. One event is, both events are relatively clear cut. There's actually 2 or 3. The first event is the Liberating Structures is hosting the European gathering at the end of September. And I'd like to organize an open space for that day. And the participants for that open space will probably be predominantly, people in the Liberating Structures community of practice in the scene. The goal is mostly just, when I think about the goal for this European gathering, I think about really just hanging out, cross-pollinating, like hugs. Hugs are very high on my priority list, given the last couple of years. Like, just to see people and like hang out. How are you doing? It was a long time ago since I actually went to the last in-person Liberating Structures gathering, which is crazy because I went to like 9 of them in my first year in the community of practice. So purpose is generally just see people, cross-pollinate, knowledge transfer, give and get help. I notice I have some particular desire to like add to like the collective repository of knowledge. So some form of like artifact, some form of like genuine hard thinking that's impossible for me to do individually would also be an incredibly huge win. And particulars in this instance, I'm thinking about a full day event, 2-day event. So the 22nd, 23rd. If I'm really, really extraordinarily greedy, like the 24th and 25th just would be the best thing ever, but I don't know if I can pull that thing together. So that's one sort of distinct event. And what I'd like to intersect it with is a different sort of collection of events around this scene that I've mentioned, maybe I don't know if any of you, but around regenerative crypto economics. So there is a bit of funding to host a 2-day event for what is called the ReFi Spring, which has a couple of different outcomes. One of which is to sort of do some myth busting and like answer general questions that restrain people from participating in the sort of Web3 crypto DAO space, and just generally answer a bunch of questions and help give people more information. The other one is to outcome that is being earmarked for those funds is to create collaborative networks and like local communities. And the sort of third and final goal is really around like project kickoff, like to come up with some particular projects and startup teams or groups around this theme of making use of these Web3 tools in a once more than likely a climate or locally focused context. So those events are by definition 2 days. And I'm also designing the event framework, which is a little bit of a tangent for that event. So I'm pretty close to the core of that thing. And what I'd really love to do, since the ReFi Spring and here's the third one, Regions Unite. Regions Unite is very similar, trying to bring together a subset of people, ecological activists, community organizers, artists, musicians, designers, and the same subgroup of Web3 regions, solar punks, etc. And just hosting a conversation. So that is an event whose first, second, and third goal is really focused around human connection. So above and beyond any explicit goal or any priority, we just want to bring those groups of people together and go, hey, we really think it's important for these people to talk. Here's some space to talk. Here's some facilitation. Please, for the love of God, have the conversations that civilization like desperately needs to happen before we like burn ourselves up. And so these are sort of the three different events, three communities that are sort of existing within my orbit. And I am really, really fascinated how the intersection, especially this Web3 space and liberating structures, this community of practice, might support itself. Because I have some particular hypothesis that I've been working on for about the last half a year, about how if you're going to work in this decentralized autonomous organization space, if you're going to try and distribute leadership and agency out to the edges of a group of people, then liberating structures are powerful tools to offer agency and leadership to basically everybody. So the goal in this context with this constellation would, like I said, be to smash these communities together and really just inspire dialogue and see what might happen in that context. And I guess what I'm looking for to sharpen up my help request, as I'm rambling longer than I would ever let anyone ramble if this was not my session. So that's the the benefits of inviting people into your design space. What I'm looking for is really an event, like a kickoff event, that could help familiarize these three communities and see if they might want to collaborate on one larger shared event rather than three separate events. Yeah, that would be really interesting if I could host a conversation to check that out and then sort of catalyze action towards that goal. So one goal, separate goals, what have you. All right, clarifying questions, hit me.
So one thing that came to mind to me. So so there are three different events. How do you see the type of people that come to these events? Are they the same people or are they different people?
Around the ReFi Spring and Regions Unite, there is a meaningful amount of overlap. With regards to the Liberating Structures community of practice. Hi, Rob. Welcome to the party. We're talking about smashing these events together. I've talked to you at length about all of this stuff, so deal with it. We're in clarifying questions. So yeah, lots of overlap between Regions Unite, ReFi Spring. Not so much overlap with Liberating Structures. That's part of one of the reasons I'm particularly interested in bringing that in, because I think there's interesting opportunity. Anybody else?
What are the specific needs of the three different audiences?
Specific needs. That's a good question. So with regards to Regions Unite, the specific need, I would say, has more to do with really more of a being goal and becoming goal. Like there is a community that's still relatively nascent. We hosted this event in Brussels, and we've got some more stuff on the roadmap in the second half of the year and first half of next year. But it's really much more about this just being this togetherness and sort of providing a container for that is well held. For ReFi Spring, the specific needs in that community is really much more goal oriented. So it's a much more practical space where I can see there's much more energy and drive towards the ultimate goal that community is going is moving towards is we'd like to launch a bunch of projects. Like I think they low key would like to be some form of like startup studio is closer to the ambition there. For the Liberating Structures community, interestingly, the needs of that community, oh, I've thought so much about this. The needs of that community is we as Liberating Structures practitioners like are really good at like pioneering, like I'm a pioneer. I know for a fact Sarah is a pioneer, you know, Catherine, Rob, you guys are both pioneers just because you're hanging out with me. And if you weren't pioneers, like you'd just be in different places. What we do less well in the Liberating Structures community is in the double diamond of the design thing, the convergence, right? So I think from an event perspective, what the Liberating Structures community really needs is just a space to converge and bring knowledge that is right now distributed everywhere together in one place. Whew. Fire. Anybody else?
So thinking of this Liberating Structures European gathering, I get the impression that that's a very big event with all sorts of lots of people. Are there constraints posted by that event that could influence what you're attempting to do here?
That's a good one. Well, the Liberating Structures community has a tendency of being very cash poor. So like there's like we're just like this call is a perfect example. Like I've been doing this thing every Monday for a year, like paying for it. What are you talking about? We just want it to happen, and then we do. So there's a very bootstrappy so that's definitely a constraint. So we would need a free location that could accommodate a whole bunch of people. Constraints. I see a particular constraint really being around time. So the amount of like time that people, because most of us in the Liberating Structure scene and Web3 very often are sort of in this precariat sort of freelancery position where if we're not working, then we're not earning. So the amount of time that people could literally afford to dedicate to participation, I would see is also a particular restraining force. Yeah. So those are the two that really jump out to me. Anybody else?
I would say, why now?
Yeah, I guess that's just it's definitely not a sort of strategic decision. It's much more opportunistic. I basically go, oh, I'm pretty close to all of these scenes. Like I organized the first Regions Unite. I'm pretty close to the organizing crew for ReFi Spring. You know, I'm close to the beating heart of the Liberating Structure scene here in the Netherlands. Like, there's no resources here. There is some resources there. Like if we can bring these things together, maybe we can solve a problem, satisfy my own selfish desire to like build a bridge between these two scenes. Oh yeah, that's about me, isn't it? Yeah. But I mean, it's in there, right? Totally. So the why now is probably more like this greedy opportunism, so to speak, that there is a chance that we might be able to solve some challenges if we can collaborate. And I really want to see what happens when we do. Anybody else?
I have a follow-up question on that. So how do you remove yourself then from the center?
Oh, fucking dope. I like you. How do I remove myself from the center? Well, I'm not sure if I could. One. Two. If I could, it would be by networking these different participants together to such an extent that there was so much connection that everyone's connection with me was just another connection, right? In that sort of social graph, so that there was just like a lot of connections to a lot of different people in a sort of maybe a lot of different ways. No, not so much a lot of different ways, but at least they knew each other well, well enough to say, oh yeah, we both know Jeremy, but we know each other as well. Anybody else? All right, then I'm going to fuck off and you guys can consult for me. Big brains.
Mm-hmm. All right. So what
I
do we
can
have?
start. Yeah, thank you. So what I'm seeing, so a bit about me. I always think in pictures, so I'm gonna take you through this picture. I'm seeing Jeremy's like, if you ever been to this Indian wedding or a wedding from Suriname, you know, it's like 3 days or it goes on end, and the married couple is like on top of the stage and people just waiting for food. So it sounds like there are 3 tribes coming in, and it's like the getting to know each other, the doing of how can we get shit done, and then the deepening dive of learning, and it's like this puppy energy and everything is shiny but going through that, so it's not shiny but it's really learning. So it sounds like indeed 3 days or a longer period of time that people can kind of like getting used to each other, these tribes is like, who are you, and then having that strong social fabric to learn not only about each other but what we can create together. Those are the images that comes to my mind. I'll stop there.
Yeah. The way I read, or at least interpreted what Jeremy wanted to do is, so they have these 2 regenerative crypto events. Those people are probably pretty close to each other, probably overlap actually already. But the real wild card here is the Liberating Structures community, which probably, I hypothesize here, does not overlap too much with the people in those 2 other areas. So the key here, and that's I think what Jeremy wants to achieve for a large part of some other goals here, is but to get those Liberating Structures people interested into those 2 other events. And move them from the Liberating Structures into those events quite seamlessly. So that was the picture that I got from them. I don't know if that kind of matches with what you see or what you heard from them. So, yeah, okay. So there is, I think, the biggest challenge is, so how do you get those people interested into the Liberating Structures people, if we want to label them that way, interested into those other areas. So there I think is the main challenge, at least as I see. Tackling that, I think Jeremy talked about connections, and that makes sense to me. So when people talk and get to know each other, learn what they're doing, what they're trying to achieve, that could definitely help. So if you think about that and really translate that into design, then you're getting very much into things like impromptu networking, conversation cafes, really places where, or structures where people get to connect and listen to each other. What I need from you, that might be a tough one. That might be a step too far. What I need from you. maybe a bit later on, could be, but not initially. That would be too scary, I would say, for people. But as a start, thinking something. What's another one I was thinking of? Social web. I forgot the correct name of it. I don't know if you remember the one. Social web integration, something like that. I'll need to look it up. But so yeah, that comes to mind if you really want to encourage personal connection, learn what the other is doing. Stuff like that would probably be the direction I was looking at. So I don't know what you think. I'll shut up for now.
I can give some thoughts. Yeah, sorry, I joined a bit late, but what I picked up from that conversation is that you have these separate group of people, at least from the LS users and Web3 community. Jeremy really wants to unify everyone in his life under this mega tribe, I guess you would call it. But I think from the angle I'm looking at it, I see that maybe the key problem is what is like the value add that each group brings to the other. So I think probably just even initially having some sort of elevator pitch for that would kind of break down some barriers, like what if I'm doing Web3 stuff, why do I need liberating structures and the other way around? So that's kind of the top of my mind, and yeah, someone else can take it away.
Yeah, that's an interesting one. You remind me of something I've thought immediately when Jeremy started this story, but I forgot about it. But there's a good point. So getting some kind of elevator pitch, that might be if you can get somebody that's either Jeremy itself or somebody else that represents kind of the other two communities, or the crypto communities, to do something like a celebrity interview, maybe. So just
Yeah.
a bit of
maybe I think
question.
because I think Jeremy has been working with some the token engineering commons, so maybe he could share some stories about what he's been doing there and seeing like how and maybe how their processes have changed, or sort of like a case study that's been successful there. That would probably go a long way.
Yeah, something like that. That would open up the space to tell the story, but also for the participants to ask some questions and get some back and forth there on it, to create indeed some context on it. Something like that. Go ahead. I shall talk too much anyway.
I'm not sure that was mentioned, but I would think of a way to for those three groups, precisely because there is some overlap between those groups, a liberating structure that would allow self-discovery in who are we, and I don't know what would be the name of the liberating structure, and something also that would help a form of collective appreciative inquiry. Sort of who you are. I like that. That's great. That's precious. So that's who you are.
Yeah, I think indeed an appreciative inquiry would indeed also be a very good way to create connections.
Right.
Yeah, that was a very nice one. I hadn't thought of that. Yeah. Yeah. So you have, in terms of getting connection, you have a few options in Liberating Structures indeed. So collective appreciative interview, like impromptu networking, which is a little bit shorter and a little bit more, but maybe a good starter would be nice. Like I said, conversation cafe would be good to get people to sit down and talk about some stuff. Yeah,
And
appreciate it.
Sarah mentioned, what can we do all together? Maybe the 3 W's, what, so what, now what, could be sort of a starter to, and now what do we do together?
Yeah, that could bring it together indeed. Yeah.
I think that could also kind of set up continuing sort of relationships, the what, so, but now what. So you have a plan of action going forward, which would be a basis for just communicating with the people that you've met.
Yeah, because I mean, from a Liberating Structures event perspective, what you kind of want to get out there is that those people move into those other events where the real talk is happening, where the context is even further explored. That's probably not something you fully want to do in a Liberating Structures event. You basically want to make people enthusiastic for it and move them in there. So I think if you get the connections there and if you get the interest there, then the rest will move into the other event or events, for that matter. But yeah, that's kind of trying to see how that would work. But yeah, that could be, you know, so something like that indeed. And indeed, what's now could help indeed move that move that forward. That thing. Yeah.
Yeah, I was thinking that just weaving things together, there's something about when groups of people entering and they don't have any information or data or proximity of each other, it's hard to connect. So it's like designing this structure so they will have like, okay, who are you exactly on the personal level, but also like on the work level of what do you have to offer. Because when we only focus on the content, without knowing the whole person, it's like it's too harsh in a way. But if we only concentrate like the connection, it's hard, like, okay, how when do I call you, so to first have that safe container in a way that I have enough information, and then I come back to that wedding analogy. You come for the bride, and then there's music, there's food, and then before you know it, you're dancing with others as well. And there are structures there to enable you to have that contact. So I love the Matty, the impromptu, the appreciative inquiry, the 3 W's, because by then you'll have enough information. And then depending on what kind of style you would like to dance to, like some want to slow dance and some want to do the break dance or whatever, they can have agency to break out in different groups. So when people want to do the startup, they can claim a room and do that. And maybe using, you know, oh, who's the facilitator here? Who can help us, you know, whatever. And some people just want to, I don't know, hug and do yoga and drink beer or whatever. And that's also okay. But in a way, just like a ritual, you need like this threshold for them to cross.
Yeah.
To have alignment of why are we here? Why is this important?
Yeah.
And then to break in different groups.
Yeah, I like the progression, to create a safe space. So basically get people to at least get some feeling for each other, some knowledge, and then move that further into to indeed going to the dance floor, dancing to your tune, and ultimately ending up with somebody in bed, basically, if you're lucky. Or you say after you had a couple of bites, you say, okay, goodbye, I'm going, this is not for me. That could also be. But yeah, that's steady. I like that. That's indeed that progression, especially for groups that don't really know each other that well. I think makes a lot of sense. And indeed, the tools for that are there in Liberating Structures. So it's just a matter of choosing the one that seems the most appropriate at that time. Yeah. Yeah, cool.
Word. Thank
Oh,
you,
he's
guys. Exactly. I do what I want to do. Thank you, guys. That was really insightful. I like this general blueprint for like first the mixing together, but also this idea of like separation at some point. Like this choose your own adventure, where even in the context of like an open space, like to have these sort of like different streams that sort of give a sense of gravity to maybe different types of action. So also this idea around like some form of like in order to get to from here to there, some like particular moment of intersection between these communities to even see if there's enough like traction, vibe, like excitement, enthusiasm for people to go, yes, let's do that. Or maybe, nah, not so much. It's really cool to meet, but I'm going to do this thing. And, you know, you're going to do that thing. And, you know, maybe we'll see each other at some point. This question about why now is, I think, a really important one that that I guess I don't want to stuff too much of me. I don't want to jam too much of me down everybody's throats, even though I desperately also do want to do that at the same time, right? Just give you everybody like Jeremy on 11 and then deal with it. But it might not be appropriate at this moment. So having some initial warm up. So that sort of leads me to like, okay, so how could I maybe like gather together, you know, a fistful of people from each one of these settings and say, all right, you're pretty core to this ReFi Spring thing. You're pretty core to this Regions Unite. You're pretty core to Liberating Structures. You know, this is that general pitch. Are you interested in taking like 90 minutes to get to know each other and see if that seems like, you know, just like a first date, some sort of speed dating thing, like, hey, does this feel like there's awesome people that you want to know more about, or does this seem like a little weird and a little too extra, and you know don't call me, I'll call you type thing. So I like that as a good sort of like first step to maybe generate energy and see what happens.
Yeah, cool. I was thinking that you could use something like a celebrity interview for that, to create the context, to see to get people to see this for them, basically. If you can get somebody to talk about what you're trying to achieve in those other two groups.
Yeah, for sure. Some form of like UX fishbowl where
or something like that. Indeed, yeah,
right.
yeah.
Some smaller subgroup of these scenes sort of has some initial conversation, and then just keep mixing people up. So
Mhm.
cool. Well, that's me.
Yeah.
Then, so does anybody else have a question, help request, a thing that they want to throw at the group?
I don't have a request, but I got a drop. So just want to say that thank you for this space. I'm really looking forward to the next one. So keep me posted, but I got a kid that I gotta pick up somewhere. So
Humans. Yep.
humans waiting like in real life. So
Yep.
thank you so much, and I'll see you next time.
All
Thanks,
right,
Sarah.
thank you. Bye bye.
Bye.
Bye bye.
So I don't have anything to on that. So no, design briefs needed.
Well, I still have to work on the feedbacks that I got last time.
Yeah, can imagine.
I'm preparing my 2 workshops for next week.
Oh, great. What's that look like?
Well, I was on vacation last week, so it hasn't really changed. I'm really going to work on to prepare that this week.
Totally. I recognize that completely as like a space convener and facilitator. It's like, well, as long as it's done before I walk into the room, or maybe mostly done before I walk into the room, and it'll be fine. Well, maybe that's it. Rob, you got any sessions you're working on? You want some consultation on?
At the moment.
Okay.
No, that's fine for me too.
Well, if that's the case, then when it's over, gang.
Yeah, when it's over, it's over. Yeah.
Yep.
So
Nothing wrong with that.
bye-bye.
Thanks so much for hanging out. I appreciate the consultation.
Yes. Good luck.
Bye-bye.
I'll keep you posted.
Yes.